This week on the season finale episode of the Toni Thorne Show, Point Blank features Hilary Beckles, Jen Ford gives a preview of her newest collection, Pomposat gives a snapshot of paddleboarding and reggae on the hill, and an all-new Tea Time returns. I have the pleasure of having a chat with Sir Hilary Beckles. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Toni, and good morning to you and to all of your viewers.
Thank you so much. Now, we see you on the television, we see you in the newspaper. Some of us who would have gone to UE would have seen you walking around the campus, very actively so. But who is Sir Hilary Beckles? Who are you?
Well, metaphysically, that's a difficult question, but I am just a Barbadian Caribbean academic. That is how I see myself. Some of my friends would object if I said I see myself as a cricketer. But I'm just, in my own self-perception, a regular guy who has tried to make a contribution to my country and to my region and to the world in the area of education and culture.
It's official from May the 1st that you will be Vice Chancellor. What is your vision for the university in that capacity?
Well, here's the issue. My philosophical position has always been that universities are not created to serve themselves. Universities have survived over hundreds of years in many countries, and those that have survived because they have kept the interests of the communities they serve at the center of their gravity. And so my sense has always been to ask the question, what really are the primary needs of the community at this stage? When I returned to Barbados from Jamaica as principal 12 years ago, I felt that there was still too much poverty in Barbados. And looking at our history, the most reliable way out of poverty for most of our citizens, it remains education, and therefore lifting the people out of despair and poverty was my central agenda, thus the notion of at least one graduate per household. I was the first person in my household to go to university. We were a working class, very poor family. I was the first to go to university. But once I had gone to university, then I was able to mentor my three younger sisters. And my three younger sisters followed me into university. And then the four of us had set a standard in the household. Excellent. So that became the basis on which our family came out of poverty. And so I felt that if that could happen in my household, it should happen in every household, because we all have the resources to do that. So that has been my focus. I think that the campus has been internationalized. I think we now have an institution here at KFIL that can hold its own anywhere in the world in terms of its quality. I think that's a good thing. I think that the Barbadian people deserve a first-class international campus. I think they now have that. I think the people of the Caribbean have recognized that the KFIL campus is now a standard. We are the most Caribbean campus in the Caribbean. 30% of all the students at KFIL are from across the Caribbean and the world. So it is a regional and international center. It's the largest regional and international center on this island. And it has given Barbados a sense of its own international prestige.
Can we talk about fees, the implementation of the fees? Do you think that it was inevitable? You think that, was there anything that could be done that it could have been done later?
Well, I think that you need to look at this from several dimensions and always see it as a discourse. By a discourse, I mean that there are always several points of view. There is a point of view that says that the public funding of education in Barbados, the conception of that strategy had to do with the circumstances of independence. That the economic resources in Barbados have been historically and still are concentrated so heavily in the hands of an elite that the masses of people are locked out. We do not have anything resembling an economic democracy in Barbados. The economy of Barbados is not democratized. It's a highly structured and tiered system. That the most effective way to bring the majority of people into that economy was through economic enfranchisement via education. You create a professional community of business people, of cultural people, of doctors, lawyers, of artists, journalists, educate them, and you fill out the middle of the economy. So the campus could be an instrument to generate a sustainable middle class. Now, if you pull the plug on that, or if you destabilize it, one would argue that that process is slightly stalled and may be reversed. So the 4,500 students at Cave Hill who dropped out this year, you can imagine what it's like to be a principal, and 35% of your students just do not come to school. They just disappear. Very, very painful. The question is it inevitable? There is another view that says in a recession, you have to reorder priorities. Okay. But if your country is built, if the stability of your society, if the aspirations of your citizens, if the belief that democracy will give everyone a fair chance, if you believe in those things, then you have to widen the door to education. If you narrow the door, then you reverse the process, you widen. It is always difficult when an economy is in recession because it is the fiscal's network of policies that consolidate resources for investment in education. Now, you may recall that I was asked by the Minister of Education, Ronald Jones, to prepare a report. Mm-hmm. And that committee was made up of the four principals: the principal of the campus, of the community college, of the Polytechnic, and Erdeston. Mm-hmm. So the four principals in Barbados, we got together and we wrote a report in which we said yes, that the principle of fees is not a bad thing in itself, but you should gradually introduce it, maybe 5%, 10% over time. You bring the private sector in to take some of the responsibility because they are going to be the beneficiaries of our graduates. So maybe the students could pay 5% in the first instance. The private sector could pay 10% through an instrument where the government can extract value. Jamaica, for example, has developed an asset tax, where the asset tax on financial institutions yield a significant budget, which is then used for social services. Okay. So there's strategies. But we figured at our committee that one, it should be gradual. Two, that it should spread to include the private sector as well as the students themselves, but moving in a way that would suggest scientific planning.
Last question for you, because I know you're an extremely busy man. Do you think that academics have a place in the critiquing and the analysis of how politicians and how governments operate?
Well, it's sometimes you need to historicize. One would argue that ideas, and therefore academics, have always existed alongside, in between, the process of government. Governments, whether good or bad, are governments that have built their strategies on ideas. Mm-hmm. And those ideas are normally formulated by academics. Mm-hmm. So academics are an integral part of governance. You cannot speak of academics and governance as two separate processes. They are intricately related. All of the members of the cabinet of Barbados and the Caribbean, most of the members are people who have been to university. So one can say that by virtue of their professional and intellectual training, they are also themselves within the academic community. So academia is the lifeline. Academia is the lifeline of good governance. And any good government would wish to have available to it the most effective and viable ideas. And you cannot have a good idea until that idea has been criticized. Self-criticism is the first step. Whenever you formulate an idea, the first thing you ought to do is invite a criticism of it. After you have invited a criticism of your idea, then you go back and reformulate the idea in light of the criticism. So the search for good government, the search for the best ideas, require the academic scrutiny and criticism. But I have always said, nonetheless, but in academia we must separate the criticism of the idea from the individual, separate the policy from the personality. So you critique the idea, you critique the policy, but you do not critique the personalities and the individuals. So over the years, I have been a part of a Caribbean academic community across the region that have been critical of policies, have also been celebratory of policies. If you take, for example, here in Barbados, the national heroes that we now celebrate. I had critique before a policy that said we do not need to have national heroes. And then I was invited to prepare a paper that identifies how national heroes ought to be created, how to define them. And now we have a national policy. But the policy
National Heroes Day.
And the Heroes Day. So all of that emerged out of a critique that was led in the society. So criticism, counter-criticism, and the role of the academic in that process is absolutely indispensable. You know, I like to say that that the academic community can be or should be the yeast that allows the cake to rise.
Thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I wish you all the best in your new role.
Thank you.
As Vice Chancellor.
Thank you so much. I will need it.
May God continue to bless you.
I thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union. This is where you belong. Over the years, we've cared for you to help you meet your needs. Trustworthy, dependable, so you can grow financially. The Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union. Excellent service, all values strong. Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union. This is where you belong.
I'm Jen Ford, owner and fashion designer for J. Angelique. This collection is Jen Ford Reception, inspired by the modern bride. Thank you, Toni, for allowing us to launch on your show, and follow us on Instagram at designer J. Angelique.
Won't survive, you're in the shadows of tempting egos. Ain't no stilettos gonna get you on that pedestal. But what do you want? Another friend on please to stand on your head. Oh girl, you puzzle me. That's just too crazy. Miss Little Lady, you better stop. You're too caught up. Judging the jury in their black and white. They ain't about your story, they just want your life. They're the judge and the jury in their black and white. It's your life is your life. Whatever suits you.
Motion CPR Treatment Conditioner. Ideal for breakage-prone hair, this deep moisturizing treatment instantly strengthens and repairs the hair shaft. Motion CPR Treatment Conditioner will help to restore hair's health and vibrancy with one application. Deeply nourishes the hair with a blend of natural African herbs. For more fabulous product information, visit www.motionshair.com or Brighton Stokes. This weekend was fully loaded. On Saturday, I did WhatsApp paddleboarding with Ryan Rodriguez, and on Sunday, I went to the biggest ticket of the weekend, Reggae on the Hill. Take a look.
See, tell them already, we have to tell them again. Tell them already.
Some burn it and pass it on the right, and then them come in and then look back. That's a thing not to tell so well, we can't beat ya. And it's a thing on the right back. Well, if you come in and you're here and you're close to your but one of the day, man, look on you.
Briar's flavor of the week is vanilla. It is creamy, delicious, and possibly the best ice cream you will ever have. Distributed by Bryden Stokes island-wide. All outfits for the Toni Thorne Show are provided by none other than Cave Shepherd.
People all over are savoring the aromatic goodness of the country's favorite tea.
Sometimes I get a good feeling.
Lipton is your brighter day in every cup. Enjoy the rich, uplifting taste and aroma. Perfect anytime, any place. Lipton Yellow Label. Get the feeling anytime, anywhere. And try our new green tea with superfruit.
Welcome to the Lipton sponsored Tea Time segment, and we're right around the corner for crop over. So of course I had to be joined by a new kid on the block and a more established kid on the block. All talking about crop over and all the issues that have seemed to arisen thus far. Let's take a look. To my left, I have Mr. Trevor Pretty, who is from Pretty Boy Records. He's been involved in all aspects of crop over, from choreographer, creative director, and dancer. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. And then new kid on the block, Mr. Jeremy Nichols. Most persons may know him from Roast, but he has a new band now, and it's called Kosa, and it definitely has a lot of buzz. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me.
And last but certainly not least, Mrs. Amanda Reefer, and she is the band leader of the veteran and the most established of the new kids on the block when it comes to Kanumat band. So thank you so much for joining me, Mrs. Reefer.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Gotta get it right.
Thank you.
The first question I'm going to ask is, recently there was a newspaper article about the skimpy costumes and whether or not the NCF should put some level of guidelines in place to stop the costumes from being so skimpy and establish certain rules. So Trevor, what do you think? I'll start with you first.
I think that carnival crop over mass has evolved and traditional mass is dead. So I mean, like, the whole thing about skimpy costumes is people not wanting to adapt to the fact that, you know, carnival is evolving. And I love bikini mass. The skimpier the better.
Jeremy?
No, I agree with Trevor on on a certain aspect of it, in that, you know, because it's supposed to be a time where everybody get to express how they feel, then if you're a person, you're a female, and you want to wear a skimpy costume, then there's nothing wrong with you having to wear a skimpy costume, and there must be a skimpy costume to fit that type of person. But then there's the other person that may not, and we shouldn't necessarily try now to enforce it and say, well, we prefer skimpy or we prefer more covered or anything like that. It should just be everybody get to express themselves however they choose to.
Okay, so first of all, there are two types of mass traditionally in Barbados. There's the traditional mass. And
Does that still exist?
I would say yes,
Okay.
because you still have your Betty West and Gwyneth Squires and their other Trevor Chase, and them, they stick to that type of mass. But over the last, I would say, 10 years, really, with Power by 4 pushing the party band concept, that has grown exponentially. So the thing is about Carnival is about freedom. It's about one day we get in Barbados to express ourselves in the way we want to, in the attire we want to. And what person should understand is that what you see there on show, like Victoria's Secrets, is the show. But we, as band leaders, we know there's always customizations, and we promote that as well. So we have a costume for the ones that are a little more daring, and for the conservative. And that's what mass is. Mass is for everyone, and that's what people need to understand. And so censorship, I have no part in that. I really do not support that concept, because it is mass, is freedom, it is carnival, it is everything that speaks to a society that is a democracy, and therefore we have the right to put out there what people want and what people will purchase.
Another question for you, Amanda, especially because you've launched already.
Yes.
This is Jeremy's first time.
Yes.
So you would probably have a little bit more experience in this.
Okay.
Do you agree with the whole notion that certain costumes should only come in certain sizes? And I'll ask you I'll ask you guys that as well.
Yes, I do. I do believe that, because, well, I can speak for my designs. Some of my frontline costumes, the way they're designed specifically, are for small and medium people. So I have a cap on the size in that particular style. But then I offer a similar look, but more coverage.
Okay.
Still glamorous, but more coverage. So I would not want to see a bigger person, a more voluptuous person in some of those designs. No, I would not. And so we have a cap on what sizes will be for the particular designs.
To me, this is a hard topic. Like if you make a costume for a specific body type, which I think is okay, you're gonna get called prejudice if you don't make that costume for bigger girls. I've heard people say to me last year with fantasy that, like, you guys don't make costumes for big girls. Even though they're customized costumes, people still want to wear the costume. They judge the whole band based on that one costume, because people don't do launches and put old school Jennifer Hudson type body girls in the costume.
Right.
You're not gonna see Adele in the same champagne costume you're talking about in the picture, but it's a costume for Adele still.
Yeah.
But people don't see that, so it's kind of hard
Because
for me.
it's marketing, Trevor, and you are the marketing expert and guru. Marketing is about image and is about a desire, and all of us, and Americans are very good at it. They put something out there that we really want, even though we know we will not. We aspire to it.
It's fashion.
We can't.
Fashion.
That's what
Everything
it is.
in fashion comes in a 0 to 4.
Exactly.
You know, so that's what fashion is. However, even though I support fashion 150%, and I love, you know, I go to Fashion Week twice a year. It still comes down in this society in the Caribbean. People are gonna call you prejudiced because you don't make a costume for that size. So it's a real, for me as a marketing person or creative director, I agree with the marketing aspect of it, but then for the consumer, it's get a little bit touchy.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Because I started off by saying that everybody should be able to express how they feel, and they should wear whatever they want to wear. So my thing, for me personally, is more focused on putting costumes and people out there, so other people can get to kind of like see them and say, okay, you know, I can possibly look, and you know, I will look good in this. But it doesn't mean that if you decide that you want the skimpiest costume that you can wear this, it's totally up to you how you go about doing
And you
it.
deal with the repercussions.
There can be a serious backlash for that.
It's not about the backlash for me. Is because somebody look and say, well, I had a girl that's with larger size in a skimpy costume. Well,
There's also a complaint amongst persons that the packages and the prices are a bit high for a crop over. What do you have to say about that, firstly, Trevor?
I think pricing is tricky because a lot of business going to trade now for Carnival, and the price of costumes could be $2,000 to $2,500 US, and that's a $5,000 bar rate in costume plus the ticket plus accommodation plus the party. So I think prices here are very, very reasonable for costumes. In the early 90s, when Pablo first started Bikini Mask and the costumes were reasonable, every single year people complain about how the costumes were the same, but he had to do that to keep the price small. Not because people want elaborate Brazilian Trinidad Carnival type costumes, the price has to go up with the costume.
Yeah.
So for Carnival to evolve, the price got to evolve too. That's part of the
Tell
process.
VAT to give us the ease on the 17.5% that we have to charge, on top of all of the duties that we pay for costumes. Then they want quality. They look on the internet and they see Notting Hill and they see Brazil and they see Trinidad and they want that. When they come into your band house, they want, oh, I want more gems, I need more gems. Gems cost money. So what Barbadians need to understand is that these costumes, to produce high quality costumes, Tony, they cost money. To make them, the labor and all the things that go into it. On top of that, Tony, it is not just about the costume.
It's the experience.
It is the experience on the road, the cost of the truck, the cost of the sound system, the cost of the entertainment. All of that goes into the pricing of the celebrity. Goes into the cost of the pricing of a costume. A costume price is an experience, not just a costume, and people have to understand that.
Jeremy.
Well, because we're offering VIP type bands with high end quality, the price is not a bad price. You know, there are a lot. We still have the local service providers to pay, and these things aren't necessarily cheap either. You know, so to try to deliver a package that everybody's gonna want, especially now, like Trevor was saying, that everybody's traveling, they're seeing what real carnival is supposed to be like. We can, if we come and say, well, let's go back to charging, let's say $300 for a costume, then we would have to go back to
T-shirt
kind of costume,
like, you know, it's unfortunate. You know?
I don't charge $300 for a t-shirt. Why? Because I'm a premium band. It was the first band to be premium. And I have Hennessy on the road, and I had different premium vodkas on the road all day, right through to Spring Garden, never stopping once. Right. So therefore, I'm saying that even with a t-shirt, my costumes can cost $300.
I would say the prices aren't expensive. I think that, I mean, this is something I probably get slapped in the face for, but I mean, the way I like about Fantasy launching early is because you give the consumer more time to pay for the costume. I think that we need to make Cropover from the band launching perspective start a little bit earlier so that people have more time to pay for costumes. Like Train hasn't launched bands in July and Carnival's in February. That's a long time to pay for costumes. So, and people tend to pay for what they want. So people complain about costs until the night before Cropover, and then they all want a costume, and then they want to get $2,000 for the same costume.
They want the experience. They want the experience. They want to drink the premium liquor on the road. They want the nice trucks. They want the best DJs in the industry. They want that's what people want.
They want the hot food after the jump done.
You know,
they want the breakfast before the jump start. They want the lollies on the other side.
The people want this stuff, and if there's nobody providing it, then it means that Cropover itself does not evolve further. So for bands like Fantasy, Cosa, and we have to basically give people what they want. It's going to cost a little more, but at the end of the day, it's going to enhance the overall product.
There is also the concern, I've seen it on blogs, newspaper, that we've been having some kind of Trini invasion for Cropover, and persons seem to be concerned and say that things like, I've heard people say things like that Barbados is becoming a mini carnival. Your thoughts on this? Amanda, I saw your body language, so start with you first.
Can I start first? Thank you, Tony. I am so happy to hear that Barbados is becoming a mini carnival.
Oh gosh!
And if we're relating it to Trinidad, praise God, because Trinidadians understand the business of carnival. That is why 1 million people go into Trinidad every single year, because they understand how to get people to come. What we have to do is to benchmark and to look at what they are doing. I was in Trinidad this season, and I had a great experience, and I learned a lot about events and about the carnival itself. I was on the road with Fantasy. But the point is that you have to open up. We are too small, an island, a market, to just be so myopic in our thinking. We have to open up, and we have to engage these persons who are going to bring people to Barbados, so therefore the mass can grow. 10,000 people, I've said this already, 10,000 people have been on the road in Barbados for Cropover for the last 10 years. It is not growing, Tony. There's a reason why.
There's only one way for it to grow. For me, because I started out with Rose, we took Rose to Trinidad 3 years ago, and we didn't get like a pushback from Trinidadians. You know, we were well supported. Our event was sold out, so and we ended up doing it, you know, over and over. So for
and now
Trinidad,
you have Raise and Rose.
I know we have a second party now in Trinidad. So for trainees coming in, I think that they would actually enhance the party element when it comes to the level of production and those things. I'm not saying that as Bajans or we're not creative enough to put on a big show in a very fancy way, but the truth is really expensive for us to do these things. When you see, you know, you look at band launches and stuff, and people say, oh, you know, you're doing a band launch, and you know, but a band launch, you don't make any money, and it's costing you an arm and a leg to actually put it on. But these are the things that we need to do to actually sell these level of costumes, right? And when Chinese are saying, okay, Barbados is a market that we need to bring parties, they are also bringing more people, so more seats are being booked.
Yes.
And what it is for Bajans now is to show, okay, look, we have a viable party, or we have this, because at the end of the day, there's not every Trinidadian that's gonna leave Trinidad to come to Barbados to do the Trini party.
Yeah.
So if you do it right, you can benefit from the push that they're making over there, and it will just grow for everybody at the end of the day.
Trevor.
A few things. One, I'm not creatively influenced by Trinidad. Like, as a creative person, I'm influenced from being a creative person, period. That's me personally. Like, nothing they do in Carnival don't make me want to do the same thing, but as Carnival as a event is impressive. So from that, I pull from that being the how big the event is. I think it's more of, you want more of that as an influence, not creativity, because I don't want to be like Trinidad.
Right.
You want to have your own thing. Two, I think it's hilarious that people talk about Trinidad and vision into Barbados. When I went to Kensington Open in 1992 and saw Nigel and Marvin Lewis perform at Kensington for Bay Jam, like, there's no crop over with Trinidad music.
Right.
There's no carnival with Bajan music. It has been that way forever. So, like, to me, it's a stupid conversation to begin with.
Thank you so much for coming for the last tea time for the season, and God bless you. Thank you so much for viewing the show.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of my sponsors for believing in me as well to be able to put this on national television. I'd like to thank all of the viewers. Some of you loved the show, some of you hated it, but the point is you all watched, and God bless you for that. I'd like to thank everyone who participated in the show. Next season, we'll be back bigger and better. God bless you, and thank you so much for watching The Toni Thorne Show.